Welcome back to the Transplanting Podcast. My name is Bear.
Oh, wait.
Every time. Every time.
Go for it. Now you can go.
Welcome back to the Transplanting Podcast. My name is Bear, joined by the lovely Daphne.
Hey, it's Daphne. Now it's Daphne. I did it again.
We've had a day.
It's been a long day. Today we have Serena here with us. Serena reached out to me, and they got a story that they'd like to share. She has a story that she'd like to share. See if I can get pronouns right here today. Anyway, so we're here to talk with Serena and hear about all of it. So Serena, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very kindly.
Yeah. So, Serena, when you originally reached out to me, you said that there was political or politics, whatever, was a big part of your story. But I thought let's just kind of back up a little bit and start at the beginning of your story, if you're okay with that.
Oh, by all means. Actually, wow, it's been almost 6 years now that I came out and started really kind of figuring out who I was and where I needed to go with my life. As it was right before COVID, it was a very interesting time to kind of cocoon down and just kind of percolate inside and do a lot of self-examination. But yeah, I started transitioning about 6 years ago. I started really looking around and trying to figure out what was important to me, what I felt like I wanted to do with my life, and I was able to find more than a couple things that I've been able to embark on. Whether or not it's a side career in teaching, and right now I've been getting involved in being a library trustee here in Illinois, which is a nonpartisan elected role.
Okay, that's nonpartisan elected. Well, this is interesting, though, because there is a big fight right now about trans people being teachers and being trans or talking about anything trans, respecting trans identities in school. How is that affecting you?
Thankfully, especially being here in Illinois, it's not been a major deal. The other half of it is that I currently teach at the community college level as opposed to in elementary schools. And so, which was intentional. I quite enjoy working with adults more than I do with kids. But I definitely enjoy teaching. For what it's worth, though, is that as we've noted, the administration has found a few very willing partners within academia that they've been curtailing certain individuals from even being able to teach. Thankfully, that's not been my experience as of yet, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But whether or not it's teaching or whether or not it's the library, I'm trying to be present as much as I can be, so that way we can protect our local spaces, so to speak, that we have the ability to be who we are as humans, whether or not it's finding services in our community, whether or not it's finding information that will help us in our careers, or just having that space in a community like, for instance, the college, or like my small village that I live in.
What do you mind if I ask what subject it is that you're teaching?
I actually teach my career, which is trade compliance. So in essence, I teach basics and advanced topics for folks who do supply chain, like for instance, shipping goods from overseas into the United States and shipping goods from the United States to other buyers overseas.
This is really interesting, right? Because we are talking a little bit about politics here, but and maybe it's not necessarily related to anything trans, but a big part of the politics right now is about all of the tariffs that are happening on imported goods. Do you want to just kind of explain what tariffs actually are and how this is actually working?
So tariffs are a very literal tax on goods that are coming into the United States. The reason that they call them tariffs, though, as opposed to taxes, is because they're set up per piece, per part, per whatever you're bringing into the country. It's not like you have there are blanket taxes, but they're very minuscule. Whereas if you bring in one item, it might have a different duty rate than bringing in another item.
Okay.
And so each one of those items gets a tariff at a different rate. Right now, the biggest challenge is the fact that the United States government has put a lot of different regulations into place that that are really challenging when it comes to record keeping. And they've taken tariffs that typically most items are tariffed at 5% of value or less, which is very small. It would be like paying sales tax on a purchase at the department store. However, the United States government, customs, now has tariffs that go 10, 20, 50,
75,
even 100% and more. And when you're paying 100% of tariff on whatever you're bringing into the country, that means you're paying the amount, the sale amount of that good to customs just for the privilege of being able to bring it in. So you're effectively paying double for that item.
So one of the big arguments that's happening right now is they're saying that there's two different sides of it. The administration is saying that the tariffs are putting pressure on these other countries and that they're the ones being taxed. But the other half are saying, no, it's the products coming in that are taxed, and so the American people are the ones picking up that tax. I don't know, are both true?
I mean, the simple truth of the matter is the fact that we already had something in place that if other governments were unfairly helping their industries, that we would be able to investigate, and then we would actually be able to assess additional costs onto those companies that are competing unfairly. It's called anti-dumping, and we've had this in place for decades. So we actually had a mechanism by which to do that. The new administration has just taken tariffs and they laid them on as blanket. And so in essence, that means that we're going to tax every last thing that comes in from this country, or everything that has aluminum in it, or steel in it, or copper in it. There's auto parts. There's just so many different categories of items that they're just putting blanket tariffs on that and the challenge is the fact that there's no other place to get these goods. Like within the United States, we don't have an infrastructure set up. We don't have capacity set up for us to be able to manufacture these parts within a moment's notice as
microchips, for example. Yeah,
exactly that. And so when there's no investment going on that would allow for the U.S. industries to kind of pick up slack, that effectively means that we're just going to pay more. And it is the United States people that pays more because these tariffs are levied at our border. They're not levied at the countries themselves.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, then the tariff provides an incentive, essentially at least a logical incentive for manufacturers to start doing manufacturing on their own, so that they here in the States, so that way there is no paid extra price for their products that they're trying to sell.
That is a logical reason that tariffs have been supported in the past. One of the more famous tariffs, and for fans of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you might recognize Ben Stein, who was the econ teacher at Ferris Bueller's High School, and he talked about something called the Smoot-Hawley tariff. For most lay people, that means nothing to them, and it's two very, very funny names attached to a word that is what's a tariff.
Right.
For me, though, I know that not only was it implemented in the 30s, but it was also implemented during the Great Depression. And the theory behind that was effectively the same. It's the United States saying during the Hoover administration that we want to protect our industries. The only problem is the fact that there was no actual investment in the industries. And so therefore, the theory was, hey, we're going to get more jobs back because we're going to protect our industries and be able to manufacture these goods. But it obviously did not help the Great Depression in any way. So,
right.
And it actually made things worse.
That's interesting because, like, you think about times like the Great Depression, you don't think about goods coming into the country and out of the country at the time, because you're just focused on nothing is happening, right? But if you go before that, you have slavery, and you go, okay, well, there's goods coming in and out of the country, whether it's tobacco, slaves, all the different things, right? There's all the cotton, whatever, fabric, all these other trades are happening, and you think post Hoover, after 50s and 60s, whatever, and now you're thinking about all these different goods that are being that are occurring, whether cars, for example, Henry Ford, these other things. You can picture goods coming in and out, but during that particular time, you don't think about it. So
the biggest thing to kind of keep in mind is the fact that an economy where money moves freely is an economy where more people are going to touch that money and therefore get more of a benefit out of the money. If I remember correctly, the term is a Gini coefficient, Gini. In essence, that effectively means how the wealth is spread around a country. And the more that it's a straight line from 0% to 100% of wealth being spread along the number of people, the better off those people are. Right now, we have a Gini coefficient line that's very, very flat and goes straight up towards the very end because we have a lot of folks who have quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And one of the things that these tariffs are doing is they're taking money from everybody, and in many situations, those people don't have a whole lot of money to begin with.
Yeah.
And that money is losing velocity. That's the biggest thing. It's the fact that when trade is strangled like this, then that means that money doesn't go to other countries and it doesn't come back here. So it's a bit of a challenge, honestly.
This is really interesting. I don't know. You don't always hear all these different arguments. You just see the memes that are passed around the internet. They're passed around the internet.
They're passed.
Yes. And
we went from Gini coefficient to pasted.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes. So we are misspelling everything right now. But yeah, it. I don't know. You just don't think about this kind of stuff. So I actually really appreciate having your insight here on this. You had also mentioned that you work in a library now. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I actually don't work in the library, but I've been elected to serve on the library's board. And so what that means is that I'm a member of the board of trustees for our local library. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to run for the board was to effectively get myself involved in the political process. Thankfully, it was a position that does not require a ton of fundraising, which is the one thing I have not had to do yet. And I'm thankful I haven't had to do that yet. But as I continue my political pathway, I guess, I might have to do that in the future.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good news of this is the fact that if I could suggest to anybody to get involved, this would be one of the best ways to get involved.
I love that.
In order to get on the ballot, I had to literally knock on the doors of my neighbors, and I had to say, hey, would you be willing to sign my document? Well, the side effect of that is I'm meeting my neighbors. I'm actually getting myself out of my house. I'm talking to the other people who live around me, and I'm getting to know them as people. I'm getting to understand what makes them, what concerns them, what they want to see. And especially when it comes to the idea of, hey, I'm running for library, what kinds of things would you like to see with the library? How can I work to assist with that? How can I ensure that we still have the books that everybody needs to get, while at the same time that we make sure that the access exists so that information is not limited? There's quite a few book bans going on within the United States in general. And I wanted to be in a space where, if heaven forbid something like that were to happen in my local space, that I would be able to be in a position to try to work against that.
Yeah, and that was something I was thinking about is that a part of the reason why you went ahead and signed up? Was specifically there's a lot of banning of any LGBTQ related texts, right? And so I was curious if that was part of why you came, was to help try to protect that.
I mean, 100%. That's there were a lot of things that I really wanted to step into this position. That was one of my biggest concerns, as far as making sure that I was there to help the community, not even just our community, but the community,
I
because
love
we
that.
don't. Yeah, I mean, you don't know who needs access to those books. If you would have asked me if I needed access to those books 10 years ago, I might have not said that I did. So people's lives change. They ebb and they flow. They have all sorts of currents that go along with them. And we have to be ready for whatever journey that people are on. And so I wanted to make sure that books are available. I want to make sure that our library is a safe place for folks, that there's no policies put into place that might victimize one group or another group. And then on top of that, I also wanted to step into this to start learning politics myself. I'm not sure if anybody has ever, for fun, dealt with the whole idea of Robert's Rules of Order. It is an absolute trip, and I would suggest that if you might be overwhelmed or just kind of scared or anxious about the idea of helping other people, that you can find these small places to do that, whether or not it's a volunteer board, whether or not it's a pride committee that might be even organizing a yearly parade or even possibly activities for queer folks, whether or not it's something like this, whether or not you run for library. One last thing really quick is the fact that I specifically remember looking through the various roles that were elected roles within my county, and there were a few that nobody ran for, and that
Interesting.
information is public information. And I mean, by all means, if someone just does the legwork and the research, goes to their county clerk's office, figures out what the previous elections happened, figures out what positions are open for the current election, they would be able to do the same thing. They could figure out how many signatures they might need on a petition. They might be the only name next to a box. And if they're the only name next to a box, they will very likely get elected and start serving.
That's fair. There's so we can change the screen real quick. There is so much good that just came out of everything, and oh my god, I got so many questions. You mentioned this is a great way to get into politics, and being the only person in a select option sounds like a great way to get into it, right?
That's how I did it too. I ran unopposed, and it was not intentional in my case. I thought I was going to be running against someone, but it turned out that one of the library board members decided to step down, and I was one of three that stepped up, and we had 3 seats available. So that was it.
Wow, that works out really well for you.
Mhm.
So you were talking about having to go get a petition signed, right? We
Yes.
a couple weeks ago interviewed Brittany Jones, right, running for governor of Oregon.
Yeah.
And as we were talking with her, she made a comment that at some point, if I remember right, there was a couple ways to get your name on the ballot, but one of them included there was a petition you'd have to get signed. But she mentioned some like 20,000 names. Was that the number? 20,000 names? I think so. I think it was 20,000 names on this petition. So I'm curious, how many names do you have to put to become head librarian person on the board?
I needed to get 50 people to sign my papers, and that was the minimum. I ended up getting a little bit more than 60 just to be on the safe side, because it is possible that people can challenge some of these signatures. Typically, as far as a nonpartisan position goes, you usually don't see that happening. Whereas if it's a more contested seat, you might want to do more than just the bare minimum of getting signatures. And that would be the difference. Is your governor is definitely a partisan, I'm guessing Democrat in Oregon. Whereas me, I'm running for a nonpartisan seat. So there's different rules that happen.
That's what
I do remember.
That's what it was if she was going to go nonpartisan, she was going to have the 20,000 signatures. And that's why she signed up with the Democrat Party, but she wasn't following all of the
Right.
Yeah,
I
she wasn't
remember
like
that.
being a traditional Democrat per se. Democratic.
Democratic.
Well, Democratic though means the system, not the. Not a typical candidate for the
Democratic
Democrat.
Party.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
And
so yeah,
to piggyback on that, to
Yeah.
give you additional information, I started working with my local county party. And during the last election cycle, they said that there are certain positions that all you need to do is caucus with the Democrats or the Republicans
Yes.
because they are the two established parties. And so if I had wanted to run for a township board seat, because those are contested by Democrats and Republicans, all I would have to do is to just get the approval of my of the Democratic Party of the county.
Right.
The Democratic Party of the county is who controls who gets to go on a ballot. And so therefore I wouldn't have even had to get signatures if I wanted to
Right.
do it through partisan means.
That makes a lot more
So-
sense.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the big
So that's the other
question.
thing to do is to research with your local party, county party, or other apparatus. Indivisible is great, but they're not necessarily involved in the actual governance per se, as
Right.
opposed to the Democrats.
Right.
So yeah.
So the big question on everybody's mind is: did you know 50 people before the signatures?
Oh no, especially not in this area. No, not a bit. I had to knock on doors blindly. And when I say that I got about 60 signatures, it took me about 12 hours to do it. And so you can probably imagine how many people were not at their doors. You can imagine how many houses that I had to pass by because they were behind fences, or they
Right.
had a dog in the yard, or they had a sign on the door that said, yeah, no solicitation. And so the very likely situation that if I were to knock on that door, they would look at me and say, we are not going to engage with you in any way because we already asked you not to engage with us. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, not every door is available. And then on top of that, even if you get somebody,
They might
signing a
not want to.
petition is, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it takes time, and 100% it takes time.
Fair enough. I mean, that makes a lot of sense how or why all these candidates would have massive amounts of volunteers to get there,
And
because
that's why.
not
Yep.
everybody can sit there and spend 12 hours knocking on doors.
Well,
Door to door.
however, though, is that I have a stack about this thick of various. We have 17, if I remember correctly, different people running in our local House of Representatives district for going to the U.S. Congress, and it's because the incumbent is retiring. So 17 petitions alone just to get on the ballot for our area, and then you have all of the state level officials, and then you have local officials. We have our county board, for instance, person running. So yeah,
Right.
this has been a very busy cycle, and it's 2025. It's an odd year.
How
Go
long
figure.
how long does the library board member role last?
I could have run for a 4-year position or a 6-year position. And I said to myself, I would rather run for the 6, if for no other reason than to know that I at least have a place for the next 6 years, that if I'm able to still serve, that I can still serve. And so, yeah, my term is up in 2031. Yes.
Do you think that your libraries or your do you think your house is going to be overrun with books by then?
I'm not allowed to sample the wares. I have
Really?
to actually return them. Yes, really. I can't just take them home and keep them. I have
Oh well,
to
of
give
course,
them back.
of course. Okay, I was like, you're not allowed to read the books. Like, what kind of job is this?
Oh, I partake of their books. I'm happy to do so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Earlier, you mentioned the Roberts Rule of Order. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So in essence, it is effectively how people run. I don't want to call it parliamentary, but effectively government meetings, so to speak. Is you put forward motions, and then you might have someone second the motion, and then the rest of the assembled would then vote on that motion. If you remember some situations, like for instance, the Senate filibuster is a form of rule that is set up in a parliamentary system where if you don't have 60 senators that can provide cloture, then you're not allowed to vote on any issue.
Right.
Knowing these various rules is super important. If you remember in Texas, where they were discussing redistricting, one of the things that the few Democrats in Texas were able to take advantage of was the fact that they could remove quorum, which meant that there were not enough people present to be able to hold a vote.
Right.
And so it really is kind of important to understand the rules by which you're running your various systems through, especially if you run into situations where you feel like there's a huge force that is pushing very hard to do something. Our country does the best that it can.
Right.
In the idea that there is such a thing as majority rule, which obviously we have a first past the post system. However, there's still such a thing also as minority rights. And so the challenge is how to balance minority rights against majority rule. The country is kind of in this space now where people are having this humongous discussion of, well, what does it mean when we have an executive and there's one role of executive? Or what does it mean when we have less than 60 senators because the Republicans have 50, but they don't have 60? And so the whole idea of the filibuster is the minority being able to say, let's slow down and let's get more consensus before we go forward. Whereas the majority is like, hey, we want to do certain things and we want to get them done as soon as possible. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Robert's Rules of Order is just yet another method by which we handle these meetings, and we do the best we can to make sure that everybody's voice gets heard, while at the same time, the majority is still able to do the things that they feel are best to help other people.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking that running for a smaller seat is, especially in something like a county or city, right, where something like running for a member of the board of the library is a great way to dip your toes in the water of politics. And a lot of people know that there needs to be change. There's a lot of minority groups that are not being represented well with the LGBTQ population being one of those, right? The minority group. My words are not coming out. But with the LGBTQ community not being well represented in politics, right? There's a lot of attacks that are happening. And a great way to create that change is by grassroots efforts of starting to run for offices. And I think it's inspirational that there's people like you and Sarah McBride and I can't think of what her name is in Montana.
Zoe Zephyr.
Yes. That are going and running for these different offices and are making change. For a lot of people, politics can be overwhelming. How do you keep up with not getting overwhelmed by something like that?
It's a challenge. People joke sometimes about the whole idea of a doom scroll, and absolutely it exists.
Yes, it does.
The one thing to do though is to try to establish a balance, and it might take outside assistance for you to do that. It might take loved ones that might hold you accountable and say, you know what, okay, maybe it's time to put the phone down. Maybe it's time to step away from the computer. Maybe we just need to get you outside for a few. Because the long and short of it is that there's a lot of bad news going on. It can be very easy to get lost in that bad news.
It wears on you.
Yes, it does. And at the very least, doing politics locally means that I'm able to engage in something that's not national. Right now, our local politics is not a knockdown, drag-out war, which is great.
Right.
I'm very happy that that's not the case. There are folks on my board that I would love to have deeper conversations with, because I do feel that they've received information that might not be the full scope of the various topics that they discuss and read about. But at the very least, I feel like I can speak with these people. That's a darn sight different than, I mean, and that's the thing, is the fact that you might be in a space that politics might be challenging because you have a bunch of people who are not willing to be able to speak with you, who might not be willing to make any sort of compromise whatsoever. So the two big things to kind of think about is stepping away from the politics, even if it's stepping into local politics, because local politics is the way to build community. When I'm sitting there knocking on those doors, I'm getting to know people, and I'm handing out my card, and I'm saying, hey, I am one of your local elected officials. If you have anything that you want to discuss about the library, here's my my contact information at the library website. Here's what we can discuss, and here's hoping that I can make your life better. And ultimately, that's where we all want to be in life, or at least I hope so, is that we want to be in a space where we can not only make our lives better, but can help other people too. And I would hope that when we go to do our electing of people, we see what people want to serve and what people want to rule. And we would rather choose people that want to serve other people than people that would want to rule other people.
Yes, for sure. You're going to get a better balance. Well, I mean, it's not a better balance, but you're going to find that they're the people that care more about their incumbents, and they're listening to those people to make sure that they're well represented rather than taking out their own agenda.
Yes.
So it can be overwhelming looking at all the politics. I get just emotionally drained on a daily basis because I do keep up on everything happening in the nation, right? Because I feel like I can't run this podcast and I can't run it effectively if I'm not informed. And so I do keep up on that. And it wears me out, quite honestly. I just, at the end of the week, I come to Bear and I'm like, Bear, I'm dead.
You just seem so taxed.
It wears on me. I got grays now. I got gray hair now.
You talk. You're mean. That's mean.
Oh, no.
Gosh.
Girl.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I'm going to back out of this now. I apologize. Anyway, the point is that it is really overwhelming to keep up on all of this stuff.
Yes.
And I think the idea of taking some time and only taking what you can handle at a time is a really good thing. There's been times that Bears came to me and said, "Hey, you got to put your phone down now because it's clear it's too much," you know. Yeah. I would also say though that in running for politics, right? I am currently helping a candidate run for office, right? I've became like one of their media people, managers, right? And so I'm finding right now that as I go, because I don't know what I'm doing. Hell, I don't even know what I'm doing with this podcast. We're making it up as we go, right? But I'm finding out that... sorry, I just had another thought. I'm so sorry. If I don't write it down right now, I will forget. Okay. Well, now I forgot what I was talking about.
I can step in because I have some things to talk about with what you're talking about.
What I was going to say though is as I go research the rules, you know, because there is a lot of rules around campaigning. You have to put these statements in ads. You have to, you know, so how would somebody that wants to get into politics, what's the best way for them to find out what rules and different things that they have to do, such as signing petitions and making sure that their marketing materials are correct and all of these things? How do they find information like that?
Well, and as a deeper point, one doesn't have to jump straight into the deep end to run for a political office either. Just like what you were talking about, if you volunteer, there's plenty of different ways to volunteer. One of the biggest reasons I started getting into canvassing and started becoming comfortable with canvassing, I had a couple different reasons behind it. One of it was because as a trans person, I wanted to really kind of put myself out and really engage with people as myself. And it was really helpful that I managed to speak with some local candidates who had done this before, and I was able to learn more than a few things from them, watching them, hearing how they discussed their policy positions. There is one of the one of the folks that I walked with at one point doing canvassing. She was an absolute rock star. She like had the data all set, and she had her pitch just off the back of her tongue. She was a very fast thinker, and kind of really taught me quite a bit on how to really engage with people in such a short amount of time.
Present.
I'm kind of bummed out because she was unavailable all this this current cycle, that I wasn't able to go out and actually do some campaigning or canvassing with her. But the long and short of it is that when you volunteer for a campaign, very likely you will learn the various aspects of the rules that go along with whatever that volunteering is, whether or not it's phone banking, whether or not it's canvassing, whether or not it's doing media, whether or not it's anything else. And then one of the other biggest bonuses that I thought about canvassing was the fact that there is a space between the doors. And what I say behind that is the idea that when I'm canvassing, especially when I'm canvassing with one of my elected officials, they're getting to meet a trans person and talk with a trans person at length. And on top of that, they see that that trans person is volunteering their time to help them out. And so the more that we can try to get involved in even volunteering, the more that we can hopefully spread education even amongst the people that would hopefully listen to us, much less the people that don't. And being able to make community with the people that listen to us hopefully will allow us to find that consensus that we can do a better job getting human rights set up, that we can do a better job with making sure that our economy is equitable amongst all of the very many people that exist within it, so on and so forth, housing and all sorts of other things. It's these little conversations, it's these connections, whether or not it's the connection to the person behind the door, or whether or not it's the person, the connection is with the person that is the actual political person that is working the hardest they can to get elected.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I found as far as like coming in as a media manager, right? There's websites that you can go onto, and you can discover for your state what the different legal election rules that exist, you know. But I imagine that when it comes down to the county, going down to the treasurer and just say, or whoever it is at the county, you know, go down to them and just say, hey, I want to know what rules and legalities I have to meet in order to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk for a second about hate mail? Because that's another thing that's like, it wears on you, right? I get messages personally from this podcast that are awful messages, right? And that also takes a toll. And when you start running into public offices, now you're becoming a target for other people. So how do you manage dealing with that when you're putting yourself out there as a visibly, I don't want to say visibly trans person, but like you're really putting yourself out there as a trans person though, right? So how do you deal with that and be able to come home without dying at the end of the night?
Well, so two things about this, and the first thing is the fact that that's actually an experience that I have not had yet, surprisingly enough. I am public online as far as I've worked with the LGBTQ Victory Fund. I've worked with ALPAC. I've worked with a couple other groups that are definitely queer groups. And the biggest thing, especially when I've been talking with my neighbors, it's my transness doesn't necessarily come up immediately.
Right.
Yeah. So as a result, at least on that vector, I have not been sent any sort of threatening anything as of yet. That
Yeah.
may very well change as I continue to talk with others, especially in this venue. The however, though, is that when it comes to dealing with it, the idea that we have, I mean, right now we have a lot of different actors in the sense of people that are acting, that say very challenging things about our humanity and our continued existence, whether or not we should have a voice,
Yes.
so on and so forth. And so obviously you want to be safe and you want to do the things that you can do to ensure that people do not hurt you. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that say that they want to hurt you, but there's absolutely no action that comes
Keyboard
behind
warriors. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So it's not necessarily don't worry about it, but it's more a matter of just like everything else in this world, it's a threat assessment. You do the best you can with operational security. You speak where you can as respectfully as you can. That you try to find connections, because there's always that possibility that you might even be able to find a connection with some of these keyboard warriors that does not exist right now.
I love that.
If there's one thing I've learned in life, and my transition is 100% proof of that, is that there is nothing static in life. We are only here for a short time anyway. We're here in the blink of an eye in terms of the earth itself. And while I'm not saying that we should be gone, what I am saying is that we already have lived through such change in our lives. And if we don't believe in the idea that change can still happen, that it's only going to be like this, then we're not doing ourselves any favors. We need to be able to believe in change. We need to be able to believe in progress. And just like my transition, it was not a straight line going from no to yes. It had so many ups, downs, lefts, rights, and everything else in between. And so that's what we have to think about when it comes to that too.
That's fair. And something that had been pointed out to me is if you're getting nasty messages like that, one thing you can do is have a friend screen your messages, so that way you don't have to be the one being worn down all the time. Because that's something that I've had other people offer to do. They're like, hey, I can go read those things so you don't have to, but then they pop right up on my phone, so I see them faster than they do. You mentioned a couple, well, now I can't, I'm missing one of them. You mentioned a couple different things, such as the LGBTQ Victory Fund. Do you want to kind of explain what that is? Because I've never heard of that.
Absolutely. So, especially if you do want to get involved in politics as a candidate, one of the things that a queer person can do is they can look to see whether or not there is various foundations, whether or not state or national too. There is one here in Illinois that does queer advocacy. There's a couple nationwide. Again, LGBTQ Victory Fund is one. ALPAC is another. Do your research, and they very well might be able to put your name up there on the website and say, hey, we endorse your candidacy, and we're going to do what we can to help you out too. One of the things that helps out is being able to contact other candidates and other people that run. There is another gal that lives in a suburb that's not too far from me, who's also a trans gal who also ran for library board, and I've managed to connect up with her because I did not know until yes, exactly, until actually the two of us were both endorsed by LPAC, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that by all means, getting involved with it's another way to build community.
Yeah, and that was going to be another another thought though is a lot of times when you go to libraries, they have either a desk or a shelf somewhere, and there's just a barrage of information, whether it's about local businesses or other things like that, right? Where I don't know. It seems like a lot of connection can happen through the library. And I imagine being in a position that you're in, you can provide a better platform for LGBTQ people to be able to find resources, local and statewide. Do you think that's the case?
My ability to help them find resources is not necessarily tied to the library. My ability to help find resources would be more tied toward the local groups that exist. Our library isn't really a great clearinghouse for that. Some libraries are. It's just that ours was never really set up to be something like that per se.
Yeah.
But by all means, I work closely with PFLAG. There's a couple local groups that I've reached out to in some of the surrounding suburbs. There's a very dear friend of mine who actually runs a county LGBTQ center. And so if I were to make any suggestions to folks, even if they don't want to get involved in politics, it's just at least to get connected, especially when we're dealing with many of the things that we're dealing with online. Being able to know who you can talk to, who is within a few miles / kilometers of your physical location might very well be something that will, if not save your life, at least make it easier.
Right. That makes sense. So you've been elected to the role, on the library board. Are you still politicking while you're on the board? Is that something that you're consistently doing?
Yes, I'm still very much involved in my county Democratic Party.
Right.
I have been working to canvass through this time as well. One of the things that is actually something that happens, and the higher position it actually matters more and more, is that you might actually even have candidates that might come by and say, hey, can I get an endorsement from you? One of the big things that someone can do, especially whether they're running or whether they've already found a position, is they can link with others to hopefully raise both profiles. And so, I mean, politics is a networking game, and politics is a community building game.
Well, and I mean, we're doing the same thing here on the podcast. Is there's been a lot of organizations that have reached out to and said, "Hey, would you be willing to come on talk about your thing?" And also, we can, we're both benefiting out of this. So that makes a lot of sense. Where do you find politics? What's your goal here for you in the political spectrum?
It's really interesting, and I kind of compare this to my transition too. I never had a map when it came to transition, but I had a compass. And what that means is that I never really had a final destination in mind. But at the very least, what I had was a pull in a certain direction. And just as I'm still kind of moving along in my certain direction when it comes to my transition, I'm kind of keeping the same open mind when it comes to doing politics. Is that if I can just be a library trustee for years and years and years, and I'm not necessarily called upon to step up or do any other roles, I'm more than happy to do that. If someone else wants to do the library role, then great. I will help them do that too. I am 100% flexible in what I do and where I go. Would I like to, especially in this current moment, would I like to be doing more? Absolutely. It's just a matter of being able to be in the right place at the right time in some small way, while at the same time, how best to say this? Politics is weird because a lot of the people who are successful in politics, it's very self-aggrandizing. It's They put themselves out there to do it,
and they like themselves. They like hearing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I mean, it's not as if I'm not filling the air around me with words either.
Pause 1 sec.
But my words are dedicated to the idea that I want to help other people. I want to listen to other people, and I want to do whatever I can to be in a space to work with others if that means a different role in the future, I'm willing to put myself out for it.
You said that you would like to be doing more. What does more look like?
That is a good question. Whether or not it might be county governance, whether or not it might be even state governance. I mean, and I would certainly not say no to the idea of even higher roles than that, whether or not it would be a legislative role, whether or not it would be even if it's not necessarily an elected role. I'm more than happy to be, for instance, a liaison between political candidates slash elected official and queer groups or trade groups. I mean, I have a whole big bunch of different experiences and expertise, and that happens with a lot of people. So it's just a matter of trying to do the best I can to fit where I feel I can help.
I love that. Earlier, you mentioned that one of the, and I really liked this, you mentioned one of the best ways to deal with some of the, we'll air quotes here, haters, right, is to find a commonality because everybody has things in common. And I like this because this applies more to more than just politics. This is something that can be applied to anybody and every day, right? And so I used to be Mormon, right? And I went on a mission for the LDS Church. The look on your face right now. No way, really?
Yes, I'm post-Mormon at this point.
Did you
never did a mission? But I
didn't do the mission.
So.
Okay, so I went on a mission. I went to Scotland. Okay, and we had to sit there and knock on the door. I hated knocking on doors, by the way. Bear is far better at talking person to person than I am, but I'm really good at dealing with businesses and professionals. And so we both have that role. But I found that it's really easy to talk to anybody when you find that commonality behind people, you know? So we're talking religion at the time, and you'd walk up and find someone in the Islamic community, you know? And as we would go up to talk to them, you want to find things that are in common. So both churches or both belief systems had prophets, and both belief systems have a real strong belief in family, And so as like there was things that were really in common that as soon as you start talking about it, people open up. And so I think with that was a long way around just trying to say that if you can find something common between people, you're no longer different. You have, you're just another person. You're one of them. And
and humans are always looking, most humans are always looking for connection. There are some humans that really don't feel the need to connect. And I mean, it is what it is. And I'm more than happy to let them be. But we are all stronger when we are in community, 100%. Many hands make work light. That's something that the Mormons always used to say too.
Right.
So, yes.
Can you...
Especially when it came to moving people out of houses.
Quorum. Yeah. Hey, so can you give an example in the world of politics where of how to find commonality with somebody that sees you as a different?
So, it's the biggest thing to say about that is that it's a process. It's not something that you can snap a finger and be like, you know what, it's done. That doesn't happen. As you talk with folks, and it will take a while. In some cases, it might take a long while. In some cases, it might not. But it will not be just an instant connection. There is no such thing. It takes patience, sadly.
Right.
And in the context of how I just talked about how we only have a limited time on this earth, the idea of doing the best you can to identify the folks that you can find a connection with that won't be so resistant to the whole idea of connecting too. Right. So, I mean, that's the other half of it.
Well, but if you have somebody that they see that you're trans and they They see that you're trans, and media has demonized trans people and dehumanized trans people, right? So they see you as an other. How do you find commonality when working with politics when you've been deemed and designated an other?
The big challenge with that is the whole idea of finding out if there is any way for them to come together. I mean, you can't just walk across their bridge. They've created a chasm for a reason. And if they don't build that, if they don't allow anybody across the bridge, then there's just no way to do that. I mean, we have to face facts to some extent. There are certain folks in, like, for instance, the federal government that it is not only economically helpful for them to not have those bridges, but it's professionally helpful for them not have those bridges too. I mean, we both see it that there's certain folks that there's just going to be no compromise with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that's the biggest thing I'm trying to get across is the fact that you have to do the best you can. I mean, by all means, you attempt to engage, but if there's no engaging on the other side, then you do unfortunately have to move on to the next person and see whether or not there's a chance on that next person too. But I mean, the biggest question is figuring out whether or not there is the willingness to connect.
Yes. Well, and I find that to be applicable to a lot of different cases. In the case of politics, that is the purpose of politics, is finding ways to connect all the people, including the ones that don't disagree with you, but trying to bring everybody together, right? To create a civilization that everybody can be happy with. I mean, that's the entire purpose of politics, right?
And the odd part is that we have a politics right now where quite a few people agree on so many different topics.
Yes.
And so the biggest question as far as we go is how can we move forward in making sure that we can turn these agreements into actual policy?
I love that.
Last note, I do have to head out here very shortly, so I don't want to.
Okay.
No problem. I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay. As long as we can get through them quick, that's great.
What would you tell a person that is coming out, they're scared to come out, and they're seeing you as icon in their community, right? You've progressed through politics and put yourself out there. They're seeing you as an icon. What do you tell somebody that's scared to come out?
The one thing that I had to learn in my transition was the idea that not everything I was going to do was going to bring me comfort in the moment. I have had to get out of my comfort zone more than a few times. And that is a muscle that does take a little bit of working out, is the idea that you can not only freely choose to get out of your comfort zone, but that you can possibly even look forward to opportunities to do so.
Yeah.
Outside the comfort zone is where you're going to grow. And inside the comfort zone is where you're going to root, I guess. And so if you're fine rooting where you're at, then by all means, keep rooting.
Yeah.
But if you find that you need to outgrow your pot, then you need to actively get outside that comfort zone and find a way to move forward.
I love that because, they talk about, you hear a lot that, there's a box and I didn't fit inside the box. So in this case, there's a pot and I didn't fit in the pot. I love that. In the background, I'm seeing a shark and the trans flag. Can you tell people about the shark? Because I know about the shark, but can you go ahead and explain the shark?
This is, as far as I am not Swedish, I'm fairly sure the pronunciation is blowhigh. But this is a shark that one can purchase from IKEA. It is very large. It has trans colors, and that's one of the biggest appeals to the community. And it's large and it's very cuddly. And there are times that, especially whether or not you're trans femme, whether or not you're non-binary, whether or not you're a trans man, there's just sometimes that just having something in your arms and being able to hold it and hug it and just even sometimes cry into it can be very comforting. And so I've had my blowhigh for a good 3-4 years now. And so, yeah.
I love that. I was just so excited when I saw it there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's meant a lot to me. You reached out, and yeah, this has been a fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Serena, for coming.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And by all means, feel free to reach out. I'm sorry I had to kind of close things up.
Oh, I
My
will.
spouse needs to go to the doctor's office tonight, so
Yeah,
which
no
is
worries. We ought to
but
connect
yeah,
on socials.
even if you just want to chat with me, I like outside the whole idea of a podcast thing. By all means, feel free to contact me. Let me take and send you some of my like my Signal or Discord on. I'll send it through to you by Gmail.
Okay.
And yeah, and by all means, and we might find out that we're in one or two spots already together. We just didn't know it.
I imagine that's the case.
Especially with Exmo, I'm kind of surprised by that.
It's amazed me how many Exmos are on this podcast. It's really blown my mind.
Yep. Did you do the Richard Osler one yet too, or not? Because that was one of the
I've
first
had
ones
conversations with him. I had several conversations with him, but I've never been on his podcast.
Yeah, mine was. I mean, you look up my name, and mine was like 189 or 249 or something like that. It was.
I love that.
He's all the way up past 800,
That means
almost
I've
to 900
listened
at
to
this
yours.
point.
That means I've listened to yours.
Very likely, yeah.
Because
especially if you listen to trans podcasts.
I did. It helped me when I was coming out, and I specifically went through his and I listened to every trans one. So I've listened to yours at some point.
Mine was about the pink house, and that pink house actually still exists in Oshkosh, as far as I know, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
I love that.
So,
Barry, you want to go ahead and close us out?
Yeah, I just want to compliment you, Miss Serena, that you are a very well-spoken, articulate, and intelligent person. You've got a lot of accolades, and can't wait to see what you do next. And it was a privilege listening to you. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. And for the rest of the audience, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Spotify. And if you feel like being a guest on the podcast, email Daphne at transplaitingpodcast.com or just visit the website, transplaitingpodcast.com. And we look forward to all of your emails, whether they're nice or not. And with that, as always, welcome to the family.